Hello there and welcome to Talk Point again on Lagos Television. My name is Omololu Rosanwo. Today on Talk Point we'll be looking at emergency management in Lagos State. Of course, there are various arms of government or agencies that does this emergency management. And of course, in any developing society, disasters do occur. And when they come, of course, there are ways of managing or preventing them from escalating more than necessary. Some years back, the Lagos State government established what is called the Command and Control Center for Effective Collaboration. That's what we'll be looking at today, but I want us to quickly listen to a report. When we listen to that report, then I will now introduce my guest to you. Please listen. The Command and Control Center is an initiative of the Lagos State government aimed at coordinating resources and personnel with a view to attending to emergency situations in the Center of Excellence.
This service runs for 24 hours in a day and 7 days in a week.
This briefing by the leadership of the center is to reel out its operations between January and November of year 2025. The center, which serves as the hub for real-time monitoring, communication and dispatch of emergency services across Lagos State, received and managed incidents spanning medical emergencies, road accidents, fire outbreaks, security-related incidents and other emergencies. Fire-related incidents, including fire outbreaks and vehicular fires, were recorded 1,922 times, while civil disturbances, such as fights and riots, accounted for 732 incidents.
We have a total number of 10,866,937 nuisance calls. So when we talk about nuisance call, they are quite different from most calls. Somebody calling to see whether the line is functional. Some will call to say all sorts of things. Basically, they are referred to as nuisance call. The number of abandoned call is 2,562,989. The number of escalated calls, of course, the number of real incidents that our first responders have to deal with is 11,127. Of these 11,127, the number of emergency cases that were responded to is 8,076.
Robbery-related incidents, including household theft, were recorded 410 times, while infrastructure-related incidents, such as pole sparks and pipeline vandalization, were recorded 334 times. In addition, the center recorded 57 cases of building collapse, 323 incidents of violence against persons, and 40 cases of domestic violence during the period under review.
Mr. Government has a very solid structure on ground. The Command and Control Center will continue to play its role as that hub that coordinates first responders and that supports the activity. So we expect that with a lot of sensitization that we are doing, with the kind of infrastructures that we have on ground, with all of us putting our hands together, we are sure that we will begin to see a decline in the number of cases. And also with aggressive sensitization and public advocacy on the use of the emergency toll-free line, we expect that more people will call that line. We expect that we'll have rapid response and intervention, and we'll see that we would observe that we'll be able to conserve that golden hour moving forward.
An analysis of incidents by local government areas revealed that Alimosho local government area recorded the highest number of emergency incidents with 1,507 cases, followed by Etiosa local government with 1,283 incidents. Ikeja local government area ranked third, recording 1,169 incidents. Other local governments with incidents include Oshodi Solo with 908, Koshofe with 874, Ikorodu local government with 711, and Surulere local government with 509 incidents. Other local governments in the state recorded less than 500 incidents. Omololu Rosanwo. We just listened to a report there by the Lagos State Command and Control Center. Coincidentally, the general manager of the Lagos State Command and Control Center. He's my guest today on Talk Point, and he will be giving us more information about that agency. Most people do not actually know what that agency is all about, and some also mix up with the agency with what they call Lagos State Emergency Management Agency, LASEMA. And there are two different organizations, but it's going to give us more information, shed more light on this. I have with me in the studio Mr. Femi Giwa. Nice to have you on Talk Point.
Thank you so much, my brother. It's a pleasure sitting on this platform with you today.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome on Talk Point.
Thank you so
Yes, you just listened to that report. Coincidentally, you had a briefing giving Lagosians and Nigerians some of the things that your agency has done. Let me start by asking you, because most people do not know what Lagos State Command and Control Center is all about. Can you just shed more light on this?
Yeah, thank you so much, my dear brother. And I want to wish Lagosians a happy celebration of this youth season. For most of us who are not aware of the Lagos State Command and Control Center, I'm sure we must have heard of the emergency toll-free line, 767 and then 112. These are the emergency toll-free line of the state. Once you can actually get that in your system and you remember that emergency toll-free line, we are the custodian of that toll-free line. When you call for help in the event of any emergency, you have any crisis, you have disasters, that's the first thing you need to think of. So once you call those numbers, those three golden numbers, 112 or 767, those numbers are automatically relayed to the Command and Control Center. So the Command and Control Center is the custodian of the emergency toll-free line of the state, the 76711. That's where you have professionals that we call call agents who are able to process your call, triage your call in less than 1 to 2 minutes. Those calls are escalated to professionals that we call the multi-agency team, comprising of LASEMA, comprising of the Rapid Response Squad, comprising of the Lagos State Ambulance Service, and of course we have those who also deal with non-emergency, like the Domestic Violence Agency, and then the Social Welfare team. So the Lagos State Command and Control Center is just the central hub for multi-agency coordination. Is that central point from where we monitor on real-time basis public safety in the state, we maintain communication channel, and then we help for the deployment of resources to support our first responders, like LASEMA, the ambulance service, the RRS, who usually will refer to as that team that are usually on scene. We refer to them as the team that manages the field operation. We call them the unseen incident command. So, like you said, you were asking this question, what's the difference between LASEMA and the Command and Control Center? LASEMA is a first responder. Okay. LASEMA is responsible by virtue of the Law 16 of 2008 of Lagos State that has been amended. LASEMA is responsible for managing, for directing unseen incident response and recovery operations at the level of the field operations, working hand in hand with other first responders. Whereas the Command and Control Center is the central hub that supports every operation. It is from that hub that we escalate information. Okay. There will be, in fact, we are responsible for, we are the nucleus of emergency management. That's from where you kickstart emergency response. When people see something, they say something, and then it has to be sorted. So all calls are relayed. Myriads of incidents are reported at the Command and Control Center. So we do the activation. We ensure that relevant, because we maintain a team at our Emergency Operations Center of representative of first responders that we call the multi-agency coordination team. Okay. So each of these agencies have their own internal dispatch protocol. And then we have a standard operating procedure for ensuring that once the call comes in, let's say, for example, we have a road traffic accident, maybe at Lekki. So what we need to do is, the members of the multi-agency team, they all simultaneously, once the call agents escalate. So they all receive that. And then they have to make decision in less than 2 to 3 minutes to ensure that, okay, for Lasema knows that it has to provide life-saving activity. Let's say, for example, somebody is trapped in a car, in an auto crash. They have to carry out extrication. So what the representative does is that call is escalated to the nearest Lasema response unit. Okay. Similarly, with same thing applies to the ambulance, the nearest ambulance point, and then likewise RRS, of course, and then the divisional police, because within the command and control system we also have control 4, and that's from where we can get all the divisional police offices in the state. So it's a central hub that ensures that the safety and the security architecture of the state is actually maintained to ensure that locations are safe 24/7. Thank you.
Yes, you when you were speaking, and you mentioned some cases. You said there were 11,127 calls that you got within certain period, maybe from January to November or so. Yes, in those calls, you said the core emergency ones were about 8,000. Now, were you able to send messages to all those concerned during those core emergency situations, and how many lives were you able to help?
Okay, well, let me put it in the right perspective. We had over 15 million offered call. When we say offered call, now let me explain to you. Now you have Lagosians.
Okay.
You know, Lagos, of course, has a population of over 20 million people.
Yes.
We can have about, of that 20 million, we can have about 5 million people calling at the same time. We can have 10,000 to 20,000 people calling that, okay, there is a collapsed building within the metropolis of Lagos. Now, those calls are usually referred to as linked call.
Okay.
So that does not mean that that number does not necessarily apply to different incidents. It could be the same incident that will refer to linked incident. And that's why you have 15 million people. 15 million people, we had 15 million offered call. So, and of that offered call, of course, people were calling for different kinds of incidents. But particularly those ones that we had to deal with 11,127 of that 15 million offered call, because you can have up to 30,000 people making the same call that there is a particular incident within the geographical location of Lagos. So what we dealt with was 11,127. And of that 11,127, of course, comprising of medical emergency, comprising of road traffic accident, comprising of fire incidents, comprising of, domestic violence issues, social welfare issues, but they are they actually comprise of both emergency and non-emergency. Okay. So our own responsibility is to ensure that the requisite first responder, relevant first responder, they are activated. We escalate calls. So the responsibility of knowing the number of lives that are saved, that is in the hand of the first responders.
Okay, I get you now.
Okay.
Yes.
So using what to call the incident command system, they're able to come together, put their resources together, work together, and then they will. And that's why you see in most cases, you see the PS Lasema on scene, directing incident response and recovery operation, and it gives you specifics. Sometimes it tells you the number of mortality, tells you the number of injured, tells you the dynamics, whether the incident, because basically for the incident command, those are the level of the incident command. They are first responders on field. They have 3 responsibilities, which we call the incident objective. One is life-saving. Yeah. Second is what we call incident stabilization. And thirdly is what we call conservation and protection of the environment. So they, of course, what we do is to support them at ensuring that they achieve these 3 incident objectives of life-saving, incident stabilization, and then protection and conservation of the environment. Okay. So when you now talk about those statistics, of course, the number of people saved, the number of injured, the number of houses affected, Post-disaster enumeration or disaster loss assessment is the responsibility of the unseen incident command. Of course, those first responders that, of course, LASEMA would have to direct and then work together. But for us, what do? We coordinate responses, we support the first responders with resources, we support them with information, we maintain some level of situational awareness, we'll continue to monitor that incident as it progresses, such that at every point, because the dynamic of incident will continue to change. At a point in time, you may move from life saving to say, okay, we want to ensure that the fire doesn't escalate to such an extent that the number of buildings affected, so that you don't have wanton loss of properties. So for us, what we do is to ensure that our first responders achieve that incident objective from our own central point.
Yes, I'd like to ask this question. How are you able to sieve? You have to be able to separate those calls. There are some calls that will come that are just maybe fake calls, or they just want to test you to see if those lines are responding, or if it's just that they say, okay, the 112 or 767, if they're active or not. Now, how are you able to separate some of those things with the real calls that have incidents that you need to deploy those teams, first responders, to go work on?
Now, this is very, very easy. Technology plays a very pivotal role in the management of incidents. And I want to give kudos to our own mentor, Mr. Governor, who has consistently, and of course, we need to give him, in terms of technology, in terms of infrastructure, Mr. Governor is number one. With all that he has done, he has been able to build the capacity of all our first responders, even from our central point. So many things are going on. Now we have what to call the CRM, the Customer Relationship Management Platforms. Okay. Now, when calls are escalated, when calls are related to the agency, of course, I don't want to go into the technological aspect of it. Of course, this is made available. We are able to receive those calls through the CSR from the telecoms, of course, who use relevant fiber optics, some SIM-trunk, and ensure that these calls terminates at the command and control center, and subsequently through requisite technology and our software, we are able to get those information into our CRM. Now we have well-trained officials who, of course, we refer to as our call agents. These call agents have their SOPs, standard operating, and they also have what we call the FAQs. So once they interface with those callers, they are professionally trained to sieve information. Okay, so if it is a hooks call, it's easy. Within a short period of time, we'll know. Okay, but we treat every call, whether they are hooks call, whether it's hooks call, whether it's a hook call, we treat them as real call. And at the end of the day, they are able to see the ones that are escalated in just a few minutes, we are able. So most of these calls that are coming in, whether they are of different categories, whether they are hooks, whether they are nuisance, these call agents through these platforms are able to see if they are able to triage, and they're able to escalate.
Okay. Okay. Yes. It's good that we've gotten explanation on that. Now, as we begin to round up now, how do you relate mostly with the security agencies, because they're also very key to whatever you're doing? How often do you relate with them on issues like that when they make calls through the 767 or 112 lines?
Yeah, thank you so much. That's a very, very good question. One thing I want people to understand is that emergency management and safety as well as security are all intertwined. They are all intertwined. We will say that all security issues are emergencies, but not all emergencies are security issues. Okay. Now, but because we have various kinds of representative at the level of our emergency operations center or control room, that control room is where we carry out multi-agency coordination. Now, we have security operatives, RRS, we have their representative there. And we also have, by extension, a base that we call Control 4. So we have a very robust and, a very, fantastic relationship to such an extent that within the twinkle of an eye, if we have an incident, because you know that disasters are localized, they happen at different localities. And we have about 57 local government and local council development areas. And we have our divisional police offices as well as area commands spread through this local government. So once we receive those calls, it is easy for us, on the basis of the fact that we have representatives of security agencies, they're able to escalate those calls, and then we are able to also ensure that security officials are mobilized and then deployed to the scene of incident to support incident management activities across the state.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I'm afraid time is no longer on our side. We would have loved to continue. I know you still have one or two things to say, but I know with this, once you have said, more viewers will understand what the Lagos State Command and Control Center, Giwa, who has been giving us insight into some of the operations of the Commission. Thank you so much for being part of
Thank you so much for having me on this platform.
Yes, on that note, we have come to the end of Talk Point. 767 and 112 still remain the lines to call in times of emergency. Stay out of trouble and ensure that you also contribute your own quota to the development of Lagos and, of course, Nigeria. I am Omololu Rosowo. See you some other time.